And good morning. Welcome to a very special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. And today is Friday. Everybody's happy to see Friday. This is one of those days, this is one of those weeks that I think we've had a lot going on, here in Highland Park and Detroit and neighboring communities. But the main thing is that we're glad that you're here with us today at WHPR TV. And as we always love to do here on Truth to Power is we love to bring real news with real people. And we've got two of the realest people here on the show with us today, and I got to give them that accolade because of the fact that these are my frat brothers. I have to put up the sign. '06 is in the house today. So we had '06 in the house several weeks ago, and we got them back again for a return visit. But before I introduce them, I just want to say to everybody that we've got a lot that's going on. We had a lot that went on. We've got the Grand Prix. We've got the upcoming fireworks. We've got the people that celebrated the holiday for what used to be called Decoration Day, and now it's called Memorial Day. And we also have a lot of people that are looking forward to celebrating Juneteenth. And it's sandwiched in between Memorial Day and 4th of July, as many people call it Independence Day. But was that Independence Day for everyone or for some? And that's going to be part of the conversation that we're going to talk about today with two of my frat brothers. And today I am joined by my fraternity brother, Anthony Brogdon, and my other fraternity brother, and that is Mr. Quentin Lott. So both of these brothers I discovered late in life, but, it's better late than never. So, we have a lot that we have in common. We've got a lot of celebrations for Juneteenth that's coming up. And for those of you that don't know, Juneteenth is celebrated on June 19th. And there's a lot of celebrations that are going to go on the 19th. But there's other celebrations that will probably be going on the 18th and some on the 20th. So definitely look in your social media packages that you have with Instagram or with Facebook and find Juneteenth celebrations, because they're going to be going on all over the state as well as the country. So there's going to be a lot of celebrations. There's going to be a lot of activity. There's going to be a lot of food, a lot of vendors, and there's going to be a lot of history that's going to be given about Juneteenth. I know I've got an event that I'll be speaking at on Juneteenth. I know Anthony has got some involvement with some celebrations for Juneteenth as well as Quentin. So today we're going to delve into that. We're going to go into a little bit of the history of Juneteenth, why we celebrate it, and how Juneteenth has relevancy here today. So let's get to it. Gentlemen, welcome to Truth to Power today.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having me. Good to be here with you again.
Well, it's always good to see both of you brothers here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I just want to throw the first question out to you. I kind of gave a little bit of an introduction, about the celebration of Juneteenth. But Anthony, Quentin, if you can kind of delve a little bit deeper, into the subject matter for our viewers that want to get real news with some real people. So whichever one of you wants to go first. Because I know both of you have flyers in front of you.
Yes.
That's going to be celebrating Juneteenth. So I think I'm looking at the one that you brought, Anthony, about a Camp Ward Juneteenth celebration. I know that, Quentin, you've got one. I've got one. So whichever one, wants to go first. Let's just talk about Juneteenth. What is Juneteenth? And why did we celebrate it? And what was what is the historical value of Juneteenth to black people?
Well, I started off with this, and not to be shocking, but Juneteenth did not end slavery.
Right.
And that's a misnomer. What it did do is it allowed the people in the city of Galveston, Texas, which is an island off the coast of Houston, about 50 miles off the coast of Houston. And I've been to Galveston, and it was just breathtaking. It's a beautiful part of the America. It's I flew into Houston, and then you drive about 50 miles, go over a little causeway, and that takes you to the island of Galveston. The island is probably maybe 20, 30 square miles, something like that. So it's not large, but it has, people who live on it, communities, churches, businesses, things of that sort. But what happened is it's probably one of the furthest southern tips in America. And there were thousands of enslaved black people on the island and in that community. And the word had just gotten to them late. Some of it on purpose for them not to know that freedom had come in the form of Emancipation Proclamation and in the form of Northern troops defeating Southern Confederates.
And for the few people that might not know, when you say the Emancipation Proclamation, what was that document?
It just in layman's terms, it was a document that said when the Northern troops came through and defeated Southerners in various states that were seceding from the Union, so not everybody was covered, that those enslaved people in those communities would be free. Right. And it was signed on January, went in effect on January 1st.
So when you look at the difference when we talk about the Civil War, and a lot of people call it the war between the North and the South. What was that line of demarcation like in terms of, say, the southern states versus the northern states? So it's like when we talk about the southern states, we usually think about the Mississippis, the Alabamas, the Georgias, South Carolinas and the North Carolinas. But then that also included what? Tennessee and Kentucky as well, too?
Tennessee, Kentucky, and Texas. So, when my good brother Anthony mentioned about, Galveston. So the problem with Galveston, it was so far removed from the rest of what was going on with the war. So you didn't really get communication as quickly as you should have. So people still working there as slaves.
Because people didn't have social media like we have now.
No, they didn't have social media.
They didn't have that opportunity to go and get on the phone, call somebody up, or they had the texting that they could text somebody, or even like Instagram. So it's a lot of young people don't really realize how fortunate we are to have all these different, vehicles at our disposal. But go ahead.
Yeah, and even when General Gordon Granger rode in with the Union troops to tell the enslaved people, you are not slaves anymore. And that's where it was important to understand that General Order Number 3. So first thing, it ushered in sharecropping, because it says, you know what, you are free, but you can go back and work for a wage. Sharecropping in its earliest form. Then it's telling you not allowed to loiter or hang around. So, and then you also had another piece of it that wasn't mentioned. It was also considered scattered too, because scattered day meant that a lot of the people who were enslaved, they ended up leaving Texas to go find their family. Because, during this whole slavery process, all our families were broken up. It's very hard to trace some of our roots. Other persuasions are able to trace their roots back to the days of Europe and probably back to the days they were living in caves. But it's very difficult for us as African Americans in this country to trace our roots because it's broken. And we weren't allowed to write, we weren't allowed to read, we weren't allowed to keep track of where we were at. So some of those enslaved people were able to go back and track down their families.
So, Anthony, when you look at what happened in Galveston, talk about in terms, say, when Gordon Granger rode in and let folks know that they were free. Did they believe him?
Well, yeah, they did believe him because they were hoping that it was possible, and that was a prayer answered. Right. But let me go back to your initial question about the beauty of Juneteenth. It was the last part of the territory that tried to succeed from the Union to really get the word that was free. And so, like I said, it didn't cover all the people who were enslaved at the time. It took many months later, the 13th Amendment, to really abolish slavery, and that probably happened in around December, and then January took effect. And even then, the states had to ratify it. and some states didn't do it till years later.
Right.
As
What do you mean
Delaware's-
when you say to ratify?
they had to sign off and say we approve this 13th Amendment, a part of the U.S. Constitution.
Right. So you had to get-
And if they didn't do it, they weren't considered a part of the United States until and their states. When we talk about not just southern states that we might normally think of, but we can also think of maybe Missouri. We can think of Massachusetts. We can think of Delaware as other states that had enslaved black people. And so what it did do is it said this is kind of the end of the war. And there were skirmishes that happened afterwards, and a lot of times we don't think of that. But this is the end of the Civil War, and you're the last people that we're telling that who are enslaved, who are under this the Emancipation Proclamation that Lincoln signed, that said that those who are in these areas would be considered free. And even then, people got word. Some of them said, hey, prayers answered. A lot of them said, what we're going to do next. Some of them were able to decide, as Quentin said, to leave. And many didn't know how to leave, couldn't read and write, and stayed within that community. But what I have found, as I look at the beauty of it, is that so many of them said, okay, now we got a chance.
Right.
There's a step in the right direction. And that was the jubilation that they experienced when that happened. And let me say, I got to admit, when General Gordon Granger went through, he took colored troop with him. There were black soldiers that had gone down there and said, hey, we handing out these letters, these leaflets, and we're going to this church, and we're putting out the word that freedom has come.
And that's what I was saying. Did they believe him? Because, when you got a lot of people that probably said, hey, we're free, come on, let's go. But then, people were like, are you sure? Because, if they left on their own volition, not really having the slave master, the slave owner, to tell them that they are free to go, would they really take the word of, another colored, black, African-American person that came up and told them that?
Yeah, I'm sure the literature had government seal on it. And so, yeah, I'm sure.
But then when you said, but like you were both saying, some of them couldn't read.
Well, some couldn't read, but as Anthony said, prayers answered. But you also have an issue where people who were enslaved for all these years, I'm going to reintegrate you into society because now you're free. The whole time you've grown up in slavery, and what am I going to do next?
Right.
So there's a lot of that as well. And if you think about, if you bring it to present times or what we're living with today, there's people who are incarcerated or even that have a hard time reintegrating back into society. And there's really no real transition because now, even when we were talking about in our last discussion about during this whole period of Reconstruction from 1865 to 1877, this was a time where you started to see black folks who were able to read and write, and this Juneteenth celebration is taking place. We're starting to integrate into society because now we have hope. Because in the beginning, I wouldn't have believed it either. If my whole time I've been enslaved.
So another question I want to ask you both too, since you two know so much about it, why did it take so long for us to start celebrating Juneteenth? Because Juneteenth was started to be celebrated when? What's that been about? 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Well, it's been longer than that.
It's been longer than that.
It
was signed in law by President Biden in 2021, I believe. It was signed by President Biden, but
So about 5 years ago then.
well, signed into law. He made it a federal holiday.
Right.
And you have to also keep in mind, because the last federal holiday prior to that was signed in law was 1983 under Ronald Reagan. That was MLK's birthday.
And then there were a lot of, there were states that didn't want to celebrate it. Because I know that Arizona was one of the last ones
Yes.
that wanted to buy into that.
Right.
Now with Juneteenth, was there states that didn't want to buy into that as well?
I didn't see much resistance. Unless Anthony has heard anything, but I haven't heard a whole lot of any states not participating in it. Certain companies now are giving you that day off. Some are, some aren't, but that's their right to do so. But, I feel we as a country are still evolving. And there's a lot of, this current administration fought a lot on DEI, and they made it more of a boogeyman, and it's not. It's what makes America great. As I mentioned before, you don't have to make it great again. It's already great because you have all these cultures, all these people, all these shades that offer all these great things. To celebrate the fact that we are no longer enslaved. Now, this was, just slightly before 13th Amendment was ratified. So, and then you got the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment. Because the 14th Amendment is your birthright citizenship. Well, we are actually finding out now, current administration is trying to fight against it. 15th Amendment allows you to vote. So all these things are being challenged.
So Anthony, Quinn, who were then the leaders back then on as far as, say, with the black people that may have gotten, to understand they were free, they left the plantation, and they went to, start their own towns and villages, from that point. Right. But who were the main leaders that were really kind of trying to help spearhead a lot of letting black people know that, hey, we need to band together, we need to do things collectively. And in some cases, they would start little towns, starting their own, having farms, having grocery stores, general markets, having places, the stables, and they had so much blacksmiths, but they carried a lot of what they did when they were in slavery. They took that and started their own little camps or started their own little towns and villages. But who were the main people that really kind of helped to galvanize a lot of black folks back then in the 1860s and 70s?
Well, I want to go back to your first question. I don't want that to not get the due that it should get, and that is the part about Juneteenth. There are a lot of communities that not necessarily had to celebrate Juneteenth as their Emancipation Day, but the day that they were free as a community at large. There's parts of the state of Tennessee that celebrates August 8th before Juneteenth, the year before, because the guy who was the president, who was running for president, President Jackson, decided to free his enslaved people, and he had hundreds of them. And so hundreds of us are now, we're free, and that's our Emancipation Day, and it happened all across America.
What day did you say again? That was
August 8th.
August 8th.
Yeah,
okay.
And there's celebrations that go on today that are hundreds of years old that celebrate this is the day that the people in this community got their freedom. And then let me go back a little bit further than that. When you talk about the start of the Civil War, which happened in Fort Sumner, South Carolina, the Confederates fired the shots on that fort, which is held as Northern Territory. Even in South Carolina, the southern state, that started the Civil War. The Northerners eventually came down a couple months later, and they had troops, and they started winning battles in that South Carolina area. So that freed the people down there. That's their Emancipation Day. Right. And so all across America, people had different days that they celebrate. Now, as a whole, we celebrate Juneteenth. In many respects, is the last date that we know of, significant, where officially it ended for those that were in the territories that tried to secede from the Union. But again, it took many months later for it to actually take effect, not just for those people, but for people across America in other states. So yeah, we celebrate. I mean, we're looking for some reason to, as a collective, define the main moniker of what to celebrate. And then to go to your question, when you talk about how did the word get out and who were some of the leaders at the time, we didn't have the media, but there were newspaper publications. Right. And the people who were the publishers that were the folks that were getting the word out to galvanize, to find a way so that we could have a better way of living. And probably one of the foremost people, and we all know this name, is Frederick Douglass.
Absolutely.
Frederick Douglass is the guy that was smart enough. He's self-educated. He had a newspaper, the North Star. He had other publications. He was a lecturer, and he had the ear of the president.
Yes.
And Frederick Douglass got a chance to meet personally with Abraham Lincoln and convince him of how smart black people was. Because Abraham Lincoln said, I never met a guy who's as astute as Frederick Douglass. And when he showed his ability, that convinced Abraham Lincoln to then start making moves where black people were allowed to fight in the war. And when we were able to, and this is towards the tail end, understandably, things didn't take long for it to come to an end for the Southerners.
Because, you know, that was the thing, because a lot of the other countries were coming over here and they were uniting with the northern soldiers, like France and England, to help fight, you know, in the war. And I think that was, and then when you saw some of the blacks that fought in those different skirmishes, as you were saying, Anthony, black soldiers were phenomenal. I mean, they would go in and fight battles that a lot of white soldiers were really reticent about going in and fighting, you know, during that time. But, you know, they almost like sent them on those little suicide missions, you know, to take over forts, take over plots of land. And, I mean, it was just phenomenal, the ability to be able to go and fight. And to be able to go and, you know, and defend their fort or defend their territory or defend their land that, you know, they were on. And, you know, a lot of times those soldiers were washed over in terms of, say, what they did, you know, in the different battles that they fought in. You're hearing about a lot of the white soldiers, the generals, you know, but you didn't hear about a lot of the black soldiers, you know, that fought.
Yeah, no question. A lot of those names go unspoken. But at the same token, we were the ones that, even before we were able to have guns and so on and so forth, we manned the supply of tents and so on and so forth. We're the ones that worked on the ships and did those behind the scene things. And we had something to fight for. I mean, there was a real good sense, as it is today, a unity among us, that there's something that we need for strangers, our brothers and sisters that in other parts of America, so that they can realize some freedom that even some of those had already obtained.
Well, I think that I know we got to take a break in a minute, but when we come back from break, I want you two to talk about some of the celebrations that you two are going to be involved in, you know, and give some, you know, dates, some places, some times that some of these celebrations, you know, will be spoken upon. But at the same time, too, just before we take the break, just talk about what are some of the things that go on during a Juneteenth celebration.
Well, a lot of it's about our history, and we're talking about where we came from, where we're at. And one of the events I'll be speaking at this particular upcoming event, I'm going to also bring in the economic impact of what Juneteenth means to us and how slavery impacted the United States, and how we as a black culture have not only been able to separate from our freedom, but also been able to impact the economy through all of our inventions, all of our creations, as well as what we've contributed educationally to this country. So,
well, we got to take this break, so you want to stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss what Quentin, because I get educated every time I have great people like you two on the show. So I'm always in my learning mode to be able to go and like be a sponge and absorb all this knowledge that you two gentlemen are disseminating out. But we'll take a quick break with Quentin Lott, with Anthony Brogdon. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Today's a beautiful day, and today's not only a beautiful day because we're here in Inkster, but it's a beautiful day because I'm here with Pastor Gene Overman. I have the pleasure to serve on Operation Refuge as a board of director. This organization not only serves Inkster, but the neighborhood communities. I mean, the work we do here is beyond. It's led by Pastor Gene
Absolutely.
Overman. I've known Pastor Gene Overman for over 10 years. Everybody claims that that's her son, this is that. I mean, we go way back. She's mentored me. She's helped me throughout my career. I love you, Pastor. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on today?
Well, we're so excited, and thank you, Safe, for bringing a
Oh,
team in to really help us get the word out. Today we're doing our food that we do consistently every Wednesday and Thursday throughout the month, and just very excited to share with everyone listening that Operation Refuge has Mother's Pantry. It is a client choice food pantry that we are very thankful that you come in here and it's a place of dignity. You shop just like you're at Trader Joe's, hopefully, or one of the better grocery stores. So we're on the main strip because we want our families to leave those houses if you have a need and come over. And that's whether you're here, Dearborn Heights, Garden City, all of our surrounding communities in Southeast Michigan, Wayne County, actually, we really serve great food. And we have lots of programs. But today we're here talking about Mother's Pantry, and you get the chance to see some of the interactivity at Mother's Pantry with our families. And sometimes there's a great need, and sometimes you find yourself the working, underemployed. So we have lots of Alice families where you're right at that threshold where you cannot receive benefits, but you still need that support. So we're very thankful that through many partnerships with Operation Refuge, we are able to provide good, nutritious food.
What I love about our pantry is the fact that you can come in, park your car, and shop like you're walking into a grocery store.
Yes.
Nobody can tell you you can't take this or you can't take that, and that's a sense of pride where you're not hurting anybody's feelings, and then I can walk in, get what I want, and leave. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's an
And
amazing.
you leave with your dignity, and
Exactly.
oftentimes when we have food insecurity, you feel some sort of way to start with, right?
Absolutely.
So when you come in, we want to have the best choices.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we really do have excellent choices. We have halal, we have kosher, and we have partners that ensure that we keep what all of our families need.
Yeah.
So we're just very thankful.
It's your leadership and your vision. That's why, right?
And the board of directors,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I can't get it done without
Absolutely.
you all. And as you see from the young man, you leave with fresh pineapple.
I love
fresh
it.
food,
I love it.
Right? And whether you're walking
I
or
love
you're
it.
able to drive up, our door is open for you.
And then the line, I can see
Yeah.
the line.
Yeah,
I mean, when
and
I pulled
actually
up, was all the
shortening, yes.
yeah, it was all the way down to the STEM building. So
Yes,
it's
so-
amazing. It's a sunny day. Come to Inkster, folks. Thank you, Pastor. I love
Thank
you.
you.
My name is Darwin Griffin, and I am the host of Truth to Power, which is a thoughtful weekly TV show that airs on WHPR TV 15.2 every Friday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, bringing influential voices and leaders to the forefront to discuss issues that impact our cities, our states, and the world. This show aims to educate, inspire, and engage our audience with people in today's news.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wccccd.edu.
If you enjoy the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabree. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
We are now streaming on Alexa. That's right, we're streaming our TV audio worldwide on Alexa. To get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
now Alexa will allow you to listen to your favorite TV programs. Remember, to get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
We're streaming our TV audio worldwide.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
I've got two of my fraternity brothers in the house with me, Anthony Brogdon and Quentin Lott. And, you know, I guess you don't have to ask much. I try and promote it as often as I can. We are alphas, Phi Alpha, and we are in the house. And, you know, that would take another whole show to talk about the history of Alpha Phi Alpha. But, you know, I'm proud to be an alpha, and I'm proud to be sitting up here with my two frat brothers, Quentin and Anthony. So before we took a break, we were giving you an opportunity, Quentin, to talk a little bit about how the celebrations for Juneteenth, what happens on those days. So if you can kind of elaborate a little bit more what you were saying.
Sure. So one I'm going to be speaking at on June 16th. It's called Black Fathers Read In, and that's going to be at the Sherwood Library right there off of 7 Mile in Detroit. So during that celebration, we're going to talk about literacy. We're going to give a history of Juneteenth, and I'm going to bring in some details about it, especially you and I mentioned off air about the scatter, when a lot of those enslaved people went out to go find their family members. So I want to tie in some nuggets of history that you're not normally aware of when it comes to Juneteenth, outside of what General Gordon Granger had done and informing the enslaved people that they were free, but also making sure that people understand General Order Number 3 and how that impacted sharecropping and also limited a lot of what was going on with the black folks, and then talk about the period of Reconstruction.
Now, Quentin, I want you to, because you both mentioned the term sharecropping before. Explain what that means.
So sharecropping basically means that it's actually another form of slavery, but you actually get paid minimum wages, and what you're doing is you're farming the land for the person that owns it. So it may have been that former slave owner or whoever that landowner is, and sharecropping means I farm the whole land, but I only get a small portion of it. And for me, my family history is my grandfather was a sharecropper down in Missouri, so he was picking cotton. So he would get a small portion of it, but the owner of the land would get the majority of it.
Let me add more to what he's saying. He's exactly right. But what it was when, okay, I've been enslaved. I have no real money.
Right.
So this is what we'll do, is you come work for me. As you've been working under this pretense, I will front you the various supplies you need for the farming, free room and board on my land like you had before, money enough so that you can, buy some clothes, basic necessities, by giving you a portion of some land that I have, and this is what he just, mentioned, and you can farm and then maybe go out and sell your fruits and vegetables and things of that sort. And then, so I fronted you all this money, all these supplies, and so then once harvest happens, once we have grown whatever fruits and vegetables and meats and things of that sort that we have, we'll take it to market, and then I will dictate how much you get as a part of the profits. And everybody that I've spoken to on a show that I have called Strong Inspirations, nobody got anything at the end of the day.
Right.
He always came up with, hey, we're a little short, something went wrong, prices wasn't what we thought they would be, and so come back next year, and we'll do it again and try it. So at the end of the year, you never really had any real gain, other than you did have a way of life and some standard of living.
Right.
And so that's what sharecropping was in many respects.
Yes.
Okay, I know, Quentin, I know you mentioned that the event that you're going to be speaking at is at Sherwood Library up on 7 Mile near Livernois.
Right.
What time is that going to be?
That starts at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So I'll be there as a keynote speaker. And then there's another event that's going to happen in Lathrop Village Park. And that's on June 20th. And that happens between 12 and 5. And that's a Juneteenth celebration. And that program or that event is at its 8th year. And that's been promoted by a family friend. And they just started out just meeting at the park and celebrating Juneteenth. They knew the history and they just started to grow. So at its 8th year, they've grown. They have vendors. And there'll be some times that we'll talk about Juneteenth and share some of those historical contexts that support and talk about Juneteenth and how it's significant to the Black culture and why we celebrate it as of today.
Okay, and Anthony, you've got some things that you've got going on.
Yeah, again, I want to go back to what your initial question of what should we do at Juneteenth. And first of all, and this is what I do when I speak, is I give you the history. Because there's a lot of things that we spoke about here on the show earlier that maybe people don't know. Majority of people, what Juneteenth was, how slavery actually ended, so on and so forth. And so that should be the bulk of what people get out of the program, to be enlightened and then to be inspired, which is what Quentin talked about, relative to how we've come so far and how great we are to know of those stories. And I've put together and involved in probably about 8 or 9 different events for Juneteenth. The first being of which if I can show this poster.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's if you can see that, everybody, maybe a little dark, but
you may have to describe more.
Yeah, I'll describe it. What happened was, and we talked about this earlier, about the Civil War soldiers.
Here, now you can put it up again.
Okay, put it up again. What happened with the Civil War soldiers?
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. I guess that's it. But I'll tell you about it. What happened was the park in front of the Coleman Young Rec Center on Ralph Bunch, down in the what used to be what we consider the Black Bottom, the edge of Black Bottom, was a training ground for the 102nd Colored Troop. Actual guys who come from this area, they even came from Canada, they escaped all the way to Canada and said, hey, it's a chance for me to go and fight for others people to have their freedom. They trained right there on that site. So this is the 5th year that we're doing it. It's called the Camp War Juneteenth Celebration. We're going to start out, again, it's June 6th, the first Saturday in June. We get the June started off, Juneteenth celebrations. And so from 10 to 12, we'll be at the Elmwood Cemetery. There are a number of Civil War soldiers who are buried there. And we'll go and see the camps and walk the grounds, things like that, and hear the stories. And then we go to the park, which is a few blocks away. And then we'll have, I'll speak and tell some more stories other than what I did today. There'll be actors, Civil War true actors.
So they'll be dressed up in Civil War
dressed
uniforms,
up in the garb and whole shot, and they'll be marching. They'll tell stories. And they're actually assembling a campsite.
Okay.
And then there'll be other storytellers, exhibits, demonstrations, games for kids, things of that sort. And that goes till 6 p.m. And so that's on June 6th at that site. It's free, too. We want you to come out and feel what they feel on those grounds where they train.
And where's the Elmwood Cemetery?
The Elmwood Cemetery is, I guess, on Lafayette, just a few blocks away.
Okay.
And all this is on my website, businessintheblack.net. June 6th, I'll be at the WGPR Museum.
On Jefferson.
On Jefferson. I'll speak there for about an hour, again, telling more stories. So it's another opportunity to come out and tour the museum, too.
What time will that be?
That would be from 1 to about 2:30.
Okay.
And I got to look down here because there's so many of them. The Detroit Public Schools, they have a parade, a Juneteenth parade that starts at Tabernacle Church. That's at I think about 10 o'clock in the morning.
And that's right there at Grand River and
the Boulevard.
Dexter and the Boulevard.
Yeah,
okay.
Right there. And then they go all the way to the Joseph Walker Williams Rec Center. And there'll be a bunch of activities. It's a huge
Joseph
event.
Walker, that's the one on 12th Street, right?
Yes.
Right there, 12th Street near Euclid, I think, right in that area.
Yeah. So it's a decent little walk, but it'll be a beautiful day to do it.
Right.
And then I'll be at the Cuban Line Village, Brother Morris, Marvis Cofield's nonprofit where he teaches karate and so many other activities. I'll be there. That's on June 18th, the day before that, Thursday, in the evening from, I guess it's about 5 to 8, something like that. And then June 20th, I'll be at the Southfield Library. There's a poetry recital, open mic. I got a poem that I've written for Juneteenth, and I'll recite that. And there's just so many others. I'll speak at the UAW Hall on Telegraph in Taylor.
Region 1A.
Region 1A on June 25th at one of their retirees meetings. Because people are hungry to hear the real story.
Right.
And that's what Quentin, as his passion and my passion is, to tell the story. So you come out and have a good time. There's usually vendors. There's entertainment of some sort. But if nothing else, get to hear the real story of how great we are. What we went through during those times of enslavement, and then what happened Juneteenth and thereafter to get us to where we are today.
Yeah, I guess since everybody's giving their little plugs about things that they're going to be doing, I guess I have to give a shameless plug too. The save the date, June 19th, that Friday, I'll be the keynote speaker at Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church, which is held right at 29066 Eaton in Westland, Michigan. And that's one of our other frat brothers,
Pastor John Duckworth.
John Duckworth's church, right?
My dean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, your Dean of Pledges? Okay.
Yes.
And I'll be speaking to his church, and that's going to be from 5:30 to 8:30. And I'll probably be one of the earlier speakers, there at that event, because I've got I will be recognized by an organization on Juneteenth at 7 o'clock that evening. So I'll kind of go in and give my quick elevator pitch, when I go in and speak, and then rush on off to another location where I'll be giving some recognition at. But that event at Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church with Pastor Duckworth, that's going to be at 5:30 to 8:30. And if you want to get more information, you can contact Lori at 734-776-9432 or Donna at 313-739-3616. It's so interesting, gentlemen, that sometimes I have to use my cheaters, my glasses to read, but then there's other times that the vision is just like that. So it's like sometimes and I guess I'm cheating when I say that, because I see a lot of people starting to use that terminology now. But this is also the event that I'll be speaking at is sponsored by the Southeast Westland Homeowners Association. So definitely all of the events that we've got that are going on, you don't want to miss, because you really want to get your history, and not just to go and we get information, but take your children so that they can know what the history was like for our ancestors. And a lot of people are finding out too, gentlemen, that people have what's called Ancestry.com. That allows them to go back into finding out if they had, persons that might have been enslaved, back then. So like back to what you were saying, Quentin, in terms of say with the, looking in terms of say the scatter, and people finding out that they had relatives that were scattered all over the country, during that time. But what are some of the things, Quentin, Anthony, that you think that people, like you said, about slavery ending, but what are some of the things about Juneteenth that you want people to really understand, the little known facts about Juneteenth, and you giving your speech, what do you want our public to really hear about Juneteenth?
I want them to understand the period of Reconstruction.
Okay.
And how Juneteenth was in the middle of that. I also want them to understand that during that time of enslavement, it didn't stop us. And because of our history, if we don't know it, we're doomed to repeat it,
Right.
obviously. And I want to make sure that you have to understand the amendments, 13th, 14th, and 15th, and how that all relates to where we are today and how it's still under attack. Even when we talk about the Voting Rights Act and all those other pieces. So I want to bring it home full circle.
And then, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, well, I guess what I like to say is I just want people, you know, the attacks for us to learn Black history is just because it inspires us to know what we've gone through, unwillingly, understandably. But then, as you also talked about building towns and settlements, I wrote a book on it. It's titled "That's My Land," and it's about the history of Black towns and settlements. There was a Black guy who owned 250 acres in Massachusetts in 1621. There were towns all across America owned and established by Black people, even in the South during enslavement, that were insulated because of powers to be that allowed them to operate, or that when they were freedom seekers, meaning people who escaped the institution of enslavement, they developed towns all throughout Ohio, all throughout Illinois, all throughout Pennsylvania, all throughout Texas and Oklahoma. We need to understand that you know, some of the greatness that's in us, and a lot of people don't really get it completely. And so, as Quentin and I, and even you on this show, we're here to say, you know, keep getting these tidbits of information and to understand. And then not just Juneteenth, but like I'm going to Oklahoma later this year.
Tulsa?
Not just Tulsa, but some of the other smaller towns. There were hundreds of small towns established by Black people during what was called the Trail of Tears in the early 1900s, late 1800s. I plan to go to a town in Texas City, Texas, just outside of Galveston, titled the 1867 Settlement. 200 years worth of history. I want to go to a town called in Kansas City, Kansas, called the Quindaro area. I call it the largest underground railroad site because it's close to the slave state of Missouri. And if they got past across that river, they were able to end up in Quindaro and develop thriving communities.
You know, you mentioned about the Trail of Tears, and that was something that really caught my attention about the Trail of Tears. And I know what the Trail of Tears was about, but explain to our audience, Anthony, what was the Trail of Tears?
The short story was the Native Americans are what we call Indians. Right, that's the code word for them. So they got here before we did, and they settled throughout mostly the eastern part of America. What I mean is the South Carolinas, the Virginias, and Floridas, and things of that sort. And then when the British got here and they started doing the 13 colonies, and then many more people came, and then they started expanding beyond that, and then they began to see that as beautiful territory. And so what the president at the time did is said, okay, we're going to make it where the Indians, have to leave. And they made them walk, caravan, horseback, whatever means they could get, all the way from some of those southern territories to other places of America, in particular Oklahoma. And they said that you can have that land out in Oklahoma. It's far away, it's undeveloped. You go out there and make a life. And so thousands of Native Americans made that journey. And Black people went with them too, because some of us were enslaved by the Native Americans. Absolutely. And some of us were even married to some of the Native Americans and went along that journey. And they got out there. It took a couple years or so for all that, and it was stagnated between when one Indian tribe had to leave, so on and so forth. But over a number of years, they all kind of ended up in that territory out west, in New Mexico's and places like that. And they developed towns and settlements. That's good information to know that what we went through and how we succeeded once we got there. And that's inspiring. And so that's one of the things that I talk about in that book, That's My Land. And I invite everybody to get a copy.
I was about to say, how can they get a copy of
the book?
Because I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't allow you to go and tell all this information, great information from you and Quentin. But how do you get a copy of the book so they can get more information?
Well, I appreciate it. And please do get a copy. And it's priced just so that it's very affordable. And I don't sell it on Amazon because Amazon got enough money. And I'm asking people to take a chance with a little bit of money and go to my website, which is businessintheblack.net. businessintheblack.net. Go there, and we ship them out within 24 hours. Got tons of copies. We keep getting them in from the printer. I self-published also, everybody. And I suggest that if you want to write a book and get it out there, that's an avenue to take. But go out and get a copy of That's My Land. It talks about all the ways that we found freedom and landowners. And then I have another book, if I may say, titled Black Business Book. And that talks about the first black business owners in America. Again, going back to starting in the 1800s when many of them were enslaved. And it's just good information to know. I think that it's just super inspiring, not just for kids, but for adults themselves who had not heard of these amazing stories in our history.
And see, it's good that we're sharing information instead of keeping it to ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
And that's one of the things, because just like what you do, Quentin, you teach classes at Wayne County Community College District. Talk about that.
Sure. So one of the things I do with African American Studies, and we're talking about finding your roots in Ancestry.com. So one of the capstone pieces of my course is that I make all the students go back and track their history. Find out where you came from, your matriarch, patriarch, because those are the stories that are lost. That's our history. To know who we are, what we're about, and where you came from. So what I also do with those students is I show them where I came from. Because I'm not going to ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself. So I want to know who's your family, where they came from. One young man, actually in my class, he didn't know his grandfather was from Cuba. And he came over here because he's trying to avoid going to jail. So he came over here and he didn't know he was Cuban, just off of that conversation. Another young lady who was Nigerian in my class, she told me she was from Nigerian royalty. Didn't know that. Another one talked about her Jamaican heritage. Another one talked about her heritage in Ghana. So that was the opportunity to learn, because we have to be fascinated. We have to be hungry about our history. And I'm fascinated about our people. I'm fascinated where all of us come from. Anthony, Darwin, wherever you come from, I'm always fascinated at. And we should know that. And that's what really makes our community unique, and it binds us that way, because we all bring different things to the table. It's like good soul food. That's the whole purpose of it. And that class has allowed me that platform, and also work with you great gentlemen and share our history. And we talk about our fraternity and our rich history in that. You should always be interested. It should be a thirst for it. And I've always explained, not only to my fellow frat brothers, my colleagues, even my kids and my classes, you should have a voracious hunger for knowledge. You should always want to learn. You should always want to read. I'm rereading Carter G. Woodson's book because I felt it's important. We should understand that. Always revisit your history so we know where we can make our next move.
So, before we wrap up, I just want you to kind of quickly just talk about how, we're talking about Juneteenth and how it also has relevancy to today, to today's society. Kind of briefly just talk about that, Anthony and Quentin, about how does Juneteenth still relate to what's going on? Because we know we can never take our finger off the pulse. We know that we're always a work in progress. Right. And just briefly, just talk about that real quick before we sign off.
Okay. Well, I'll say this, and someone had said at a meeting I went to last night that, well, we're still fighting the same fight. Mm-hmm. That's because racism is not going anywhere. It's still going to be there, and it just takes a different form. They become a little more astute to how they can inflict whatever pain and punishment they want to. And we are astute because we know of what they've done, and that's what Juneteenth can tell us. It's not just Juneteenth that day. It's all that led up to it. It's all that happened afterwards that we need to understand. And Juneteenth is just one of those monikers that says, okay, this is something that we should celebrate. And that's the beauty of it. And we should know that history and the history that came after it, about our successes, not just what hurt us, but of our successes. And that's what I focus in on the books.
So besides your books that they could, do some research on, are there any other books that you know that you go to for a biography to find out, for a bibliography of books that that somebody could also do more research about Juneteenth with?
Well,
it's one thing to hear you guys
yeah,
talk,
oh, yeah,
but it's
sure.
another thing to go and have a bibliography with the names of some of the books that you turn to when you want to research more about Juneteenth.
Can I do my shameless plug?
Go ahead.
My shameless plug is I have a podcast, everybody, and I want you to go to my podcast. It's called Strong Inspirations. It's on YouTube. It stays up all the time. I interview people.
Now, the only way I'm going to let you do that is that you got to go and promote Truth to Power.
WHPR. Oh, yeah. We're going to have you on
next
the show.
time. All right.
We'll have you on the show.
We can reciprocate that part.
Oh, yeah, I love it. And that's what it is. But I interview people around the world for them to tell Black history stories.
Okay.
I got people who live in Texas that talk about Juneteenth and the celebrations. And I just released one with a lady who was a sharecropper. And she went from not having shoes to a PhD.
Well, we got to put a pin on that. We got to have you gentlemen to come back again. Okay. And you only want to just do an hour. See, how that time goes by so quickly and stuff now.
Oh, I love it. You're a good host, man.
I appreciate you saying that.
You're a great host.
So, Quentin Lott, tell in terms of say how somebody can get in contact with you to find out more about the place that you're going to be speaking at.
You can reach me on my email directly. It's qqlott@gmail.com. I am available for any speaking engagements as well. And I will be on June 16th at the Sherwood Library in Detroit from 5 to 7. I'll be speaking there, talking about Juneteenth. And on June 20th at Lathrop Village, there's a big celebration. And remember, everyone, these events are free. So please come, please attend, please celebrate, and let's talk about our history.
That word just echoes with so many people when you say that four-letter word, free. Right. So that's important right there. Right. But I just want to thank both of you, frat brothers, for being on the show with me today. We got to have you back on again. But I wish you the best of luck in terms of, say, with your endeavors to try and educate more and more people about Juneteenth and about themselves being the entrepreneurs and being the successful people that they are. And just like you both saying, research, read. You understand about your history, you won't be doomed to repeat the history that could have been something that could have been less fortunate for all of us.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Again, Quentin Lott, Anthony Brogdon, I'm Darwin Griffin. I'm your host today, and we will be right back, so stay tuned.
From the desk of R.J. Watkins, this is a WHPR editorial.
I'm Ariana Watkins, and for decades, my father, R.J. Watkins, has served our community with quality radio and TV service through WHPR and Roku. Today, I'm proud to stand beside him, continuing the legacy built on trust, innovation, and your support. We're here because of you, and we'll keep bringing you the best now and for generations to come. Thank you for supporting us and growing with us.
This has been a WHPR editorial.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
My name is Darwin Griffin, and I am the host of Truth to Power, which is a thoughtful weekly TV show that airs on WHPR TV 15.2 every Friday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, bringing influential voices and leaders to the forefront to discuss issues that impact our cities, our states, and the world. This show aims to educate, inspire, and engage our audience with people in today's news.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
.313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
WGPR Detroit HD3.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
You see, the set has changed a little bit, I guess, because of the fact that I have, he's not a frat brother, but he's still my brother under the skin. And that is none other than the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr. And then we are also joined by, that's the question that I want to hear him say, watchdog. Or do we want to say, in terms of, say, a person that may be entitled something different? But we want to say today we have the watchdog that it pretty much like keeps everybody on their P's and Q's, and that is none other than Mr. Robert Davis. Mr. Davis, thank you for coming on a special edition of Truth to Power today.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
But Roy, I know I just want to tell you, appreciate you for getting Mr. Davis to come on. I know there's a lot of activity that's going on, not just here in Highland Park, but a lot of elections is going on throughout the state as well as the country. But Roy, I'm going to give you an opportunity just to kind of introduce Mr. Davis, and then we can ask him some questions from this point forward.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And, you know, I really have to just thank Brother Davis so much, because this was kind of like a last minute. He adjusted his schedule to come on to be with us today. And, you know, I've known, God, Robert, we've known each other for years. And, you know, he's always been that voice that's out there. And I mean, he was gonna tell you whether you wrong or whether you right, you know. And I mean, he's checked me sometimes, and you know, but it's never anything personal. I mean, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. And you know, Robert's gonna bring it out. And so, you know, when this issue regarding, as you stated, Darwin, with the voting and this concern regarding what's happening in Highland Park, you know, we always want the listeners to be very much informed as to what is going on, especially since the fact that WHPR is in Highland Park and this situation is dealing with Highland Park. So, you know, with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Robert, kind of tell a little bit about himself, and then tell what's going on with this issue here.
Well, Mr. McAllister, I want to thank...
whoa, brother. We go back too far, this Mr. McAllister stuff. I appreciate you, brother.
I give you all the respect that you are due. And,
thank you, brother.
And certainly when you called, I have no choice but to adjust and accommodate
so many
request.
People say that, Roy. They always say that when Roy McAllister calls them, they jump right to attention and say, hey, we right there for you, Roy. So
absolutely.
That's a good thing.
He's a great brother. He still should be on Detroit City Council, but even though I still refer to him as Councilman McAllister.
Thank you.
You know, some of the words in which you've echoed previously, you know, this is my first time here, and I just saw Brother Watkins walking through the front door.
Yes, sir.
And certainly this is a great studio and establishment here, and he's been an anchor here in the city of Highland Park for quite some time, and even when I was first on the school board some eons ago, WHPR, not many people understand, is that was the radio signal for the Highland Park School District for years.
Wow.
And so they graciously granted him the opportunity to use the Highland Park School District signal. Wow. 88.1.
Okay.
And if Mr. Greg Bendrian, our former public information officer, was still alive, he would give you the whole history of WHPR and 88.1, but I truly extend my congratulations to you two as well as to Brother Watkins for continuing the success and the vision. And you know what? It's just ironic that 4 years ago, around the same time, there was a case dealing with Highland Park mayoral candidates, in which the Court of Appeals agreed with my legal analysis of the law that resulted in all the candidates being disqualified. That resulted in the current mayor, Ms. McDonald, being elected because she was the only one on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Now let's fast forward now to present day, where you have the current mayor, Ms. McDonald, and some others who have legal issues with respect to the validity of their affidavits of identity, which in my humble opinion should result in their disqualification from the ballot. We had an extensive hearing this past Tuesday before Wayne County Circuit Court Judge Kathleen McCarthy, in which she agreed with me with respect to some candidates, as expected, and with respect to others, she punted, so to speak. And we were prepared for that because it's a political question, and sometimes certain judges, especially on the local level, don't want to be the bad guy. Yeah. And here it's quite evident that the current mayor should be disqualified because she submitted a false affidavit of identity as it relates to her compliance or non-compliance with the Michigan Campaign Finance Act. And then you had another candidate, Ms. Robinson, who listed a fictitious name on her affidavit of identity in violation of Michigan election law. And some people may say, why would a person not know what their real name is? That's a question that you have to ask that candidate. But certainly the evidence that was placed into the record, which included court records of her past misconduct, as it is characterized as such, clearly shows what the person's real name was. And I think the Court of Appeals will have no problem addressing this matter on an expedited basis. It's currently there.
Talk about that, Robert, in terms of say, because I know the situation you're talking about, and there was a difference of one letter, E.
Yes, that's correct.
With her name. Mm-hmm. But talk about that.
It's a distinction, and Mr. McAllister, being an esteemed police officer, will tell you that especially people involved in certain type of financial crimes or fraud typically know how to do the name change game, in which just a distinction of one letter in a person's name can make a big difference. So if, for instance, if a person doesn't put their full correct name, the correct spelling, say for instance you're trying to do a background check to see if that person may have certain things in their background from the past, and it doesn't show up because how you spell the person's name. And individuals know how to do that. So that distinction of the one missing letter, you have a totally different person. So you go from, in this instance with the candidate Aline, you go from E-L-E-N-E to Ellen, E-L-E-N, which is a big distinction. And so under Michigan election law, you have to put your correct legal name because one missing letter can make a difference in terms of the distinction between that person, identifying who that person truly is. And it was quite evident from her own affidavit that she knew what she was doing, because the record also revealed that part of her past, she was involved in transactions where she was accused of using certain deviations of her name to commit fraud.
Okay, so you're exactly correct. My years on the law enforcement, I ran into folks like that when we look at the back, but they did it a lot of times also with their social security number.
Absolutely.
They'll change one of the numbers, and that social security number just throws everything off. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Darwin, I think that we need to address is we are hearing Brother Davis's view. But we also need to reach out, and I want our viewers to know that we are not here to take anybody's side. Our objective is to give you that information so that you will have knowledge. And I think that we should reach out to the mayor and Ms. Robinson and to bring them on, so that our viewers can say, hey, look, we heard Mr. Davis. Now we want to hear the mayor, why, this was done. Did she understand? Did they understand what they were doing, as well as Ms. Robinson? So, Brother Darwin, I think we also going to be reaching out to those two as well in the upcoming weeks. Hopefully we can get them back-to-back weeks, to come in and do this. But our objective is again, and I think Brother Davis is coming on with us to bring us this information. But again, our objective is not to take sides, not to put anybody on Front Street or anything but to give information out there, to put it out there. So that everybody will know. But I want to
give him an opportunity to kind of go into a little detail, Mr. Davis, about what happened then with Mayor McDonald.
Sure.
Because I know you mentioned about the one letter E when it came to Ms. Robinson. But what was the situation with Mayor McDonald?
Well, the situation with Ms. McDonald was on the affidavit of identity under Michigan election law now. And for quite some time, you have to attest to the fact that as of the date of your affidavit, all campaign statement reports, late filing fees required of you or any candidate committee organized for your election to any office have been filed or paid. In this instance, Ms. McDonald, who was a candidate in 2022, was claiming that because there was no primary, that she was not seeking nomination to the office of mayor during the primary election cycle, and thus she should not have been required to file the pre and post primary election campaign statements required under the Michigan Campaign Finance Act. And the statute is quite clear. When you're seeking nomination, whether or not there is a primary election or not, and let me piggyback, the reason why there was not a primary election was because of the case that I brought in the Court of Appeals that resulted in every candidate except for her from being disqualified. And as a result, under Michigan election law, when you have that, when there's not twice as many candidates than there are to be elected, then there's no primary. And those candidates are then deemed nominated to appear on the general election ballot. So her misinterpretation of Michigan election law and Michigan Campaign Finance Act resulted in her filing a false affidavit, because she is undisputed that she did not file a pre and post primary election campaign statements during that election cycle, despite the fact that she was actively raising money during that period for her subsequent election as mayor. In addition, it was also ultimately determined that she also owed a $25 late filing fee for one of her candidate committees in which she was seeking election to city council. And those records have been maintained by our esteemed Wayne County clerk. And based upon those records, it clearly shows that she was assessed a $25 late filing fee, which had not been paid.
And this was back when?
This predated 2022, and I think it's probably sometime in 2018, 2020.
Okay.
Now, Brother Davis, help me and everybody else understand.
Sure.
If there is no primary, is my understanding, if you're raising funds, you still have to submit a report.
That is correct.
On that. And so what you're saying is that was not done.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean,
I just want to make sure I understood.
That's clearly undisputed.
Okay.
Despite her raising funds and her misinterpretation of the law, because she was trying to argue that because there was no primary, then she was not seeking nomination. But that's not so. You were still seeking nomination as a result of you filing for office.
Yes.
As a result of you continuing to raise money. And in fact, the statute recognizes you as the nominated candidate despite there not being a primary due to not enough candidates.
And the fact that although you're an incumbent, you still have to file to be elected or re-elected. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so now, when we're looking in terms of, say, at this occurring, now you went to court on Tuesday.
Yes.
And what happened?
We held, it was about a 2-hour hearing.
Okay.
And I appreciate the patience of Judge McCarthy. because there were a number of procedural issues in which she addressed. One being Ms. McDonald attempted to intervene as a defendant, in which the court promptly denied because her filing was procedurally deficient. Mr. Holly, who was one of the other candidates that were J. Douglas Holly, which was one of the other candidates challenged.
Now, what was he challenged for?
Well, it was a multitude of things with respect to J. Douglas Holly, in which the court granted the request to disqualify him. One being is that his affidavit of identity made a false statement by stating that he incorrectly put that the jurisdiction of the office of mayor was Wayne.
As opposed to Highland Park.
As opposed to Highland Park. In addition, there were issues as it relates to whether or not his name, J. Douglas Holly, was truly his legal name. Court records from the U.S. District Court in Chicago, in which Mr. Holly was indicted sometime in the 80s, in which the indictment clearly lists what his legal name was. And on those court documents, it clearly indicates that his legal name was Douglas James Holly and not J. Douglas Holly.
And we want to make sure them listeners is hearing you there with that mic there. Yes, sir.
And so there were also issues with respect to whether or not he was using his legal name on his affidavit of identity, because his legal name is not J. Douglas Holly, as proven by the court records from the U.S. District Court in Chicago.
So now, let me ask you this question. So now, so he was, what was the verdict with him?
He was disqualified.
He was disqualified.
The court agreed that his affidavit of identity contained a false statement.
Okay.
And thus, he was disqualified.
Okay. Now let's go back to Ms. Robinson and to Mayor McDonald. So now, in the case with Mayor McDonald, what did the judge decide on her count?
Well, that's interesting you asked that, because I'm still trying to figure out what was her actual ruling. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, she held that she believed that there could be a possibility that the filing fee was paid.
The $25.
The $25 because it was so owed, despite the fact that the county clerk, who was a party to the action, did not rebut that the $25 was not paid.
And you say this occurred, you're saying like 2018, or it could be even earlier than that?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And but one of the things, as Mr. McAllister can attest to, is the fact that, your campaign finance records are well maintained by the filing officials, being the Secretary of State or the county clerk, and it's very easily accessible in terms of looking at your records online.
So other question, I didn't mean to cut you off, but sure. Why wasn't that caught then earlier as opposed to now?
Well, I can't answer that question.
I mean, that's the question I'm just wondering now. Because
I don't know if the candidate, Ms. McDonald, in this instance, thoroughly looked at her past filings or misunderstood what her obligations were, especially considering that she felt she wasn't obligated to file her pre and post campaign statements during the 2022 election cycle. So I can't speak to why, she didn't take more careful or did a more careful evaluation of what her situation was.
Isn't there a portion on the filing fee, or when you're filing, is whether or not you owe any outstanding balances or not?
Right, absolutely.
Right.
And
and it's any.
Right.
Any outstanding. It could be $1.
Right. And you have to answer that, and if they look at that and however your answer comes out, if you do owe, I think they give you a certain period of time, or they could say you're disqualified.
Exactly. I mean, the reason why the legislature amended the statute, and I was working for our former state representative, LaTanya Garrett, at the time, is the reason being is because so many candidates over the years had been ignoring the campaign finance filing requirements because they said there's no repercussions. I'm not going to be prosecuted. I'm not going to be disqualified from the ballot because the statute doesn't say that's a disqualifying measure. So the legislature said, hey, we got to make sure that the Michigan Campaign Finance Act is complied with. And so they amended the statute under Michigan election law to say, hey, you got to attest to the truthfulness that everything that's due of you under the Campaign Finance Act or any candidate committee has been properly filed or paid. and it doesn't have a limitation. Anytime.
Well, that also goes on, when you're talking about, especially with elected officials, that also goes on your integrity also.
Absolutely.
Because when you're out here representing the people is looking that your integrity is up above board, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that also brings question. And a lot of times, I mean, some folks may just be not aware of what the circumstances is or what's going on with it. But then there's also that is no excuse.
Correct.
Because you are supposed to look into these things and look at it. And it's, and I'm saying it as a former politician myself. I mean, I had to do everything with a fine-tooth comb, especially with my finance records.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Darwin, that's what I'm just saying, it's just, people start looking at your integrity. I mean, there's things that come out about former elected officials, and it was like, well, what is their integrity about? So, again, it is an issue that I think we need to look at the others that was involved and hear what their circumstances.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
because we definitely want to extend that invitation
Yes, sir.
to to candidate Holly as well as to Mayor McDonald,
Mhm.
and then also to J. Douglas Holly,
Yes,
to
yes.
come
Robinson,
and
Robinson.
and talk about what happened in terms of with his candidacy as well.
Right.
And at the same time, I guess the question I just want to ask you too is that
Sure.
so now you are appealing the decision, am I correct?
Yes, currently right now the Court of Appeals, and in fact we're anticipating an order sometime today with respect to expediting the review so that a decision is rendered prior to the deadline for printing of the ballots, similar to the same process that the Court of Appeals undertook 4 years ago. And here, there's no doubt in my mind that based upon the legal precedent and based upon the proofs that were placed into the record at Tuesday's hearing, that candidates McDonald and Robinson should be disqualified just as candidate Holly was disqualified.
Now, are they the only candidates? Because I see that you mentioned about the candidates that are running for mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other candidates that were running for like city council that were also some affidavit of identity, or if there was looking at they signed to say that they owed no money or something like that? Were there any other candidates that might have been?
I think that the city clerk, to her credit, weeded out some candidates.
Okay.
Without necessarily having a legal challenge, and I know that those races that won't have a primary will be looked at before the ballots are to be certified for the general. I know that there's going to be some issues with other candidates, I know, in terms of residency, in addition to filing false affidavits.
Okay. Well, we got to take a quick break. Tim has come out and said we got to take a quick break. Mr. Davis, I don't know if you can stay on with us a little longer.
Couple of minutes. Couple
Okay.
of minutes long.
But we'll be right back with the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr. and with Robert Davis. And I'm going to put the term watchdog on him. But, we will be right back. So stay tuned.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
If you enjoy the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
Good morning. Today's a beautiful day, and today's not only a beautiful day because we're here in Inkster, but it's a beautiful day because I'm here with Pastor Gene Overman. I have the pleasure to serve on Operation Refuge as a board of director. This organization not only serves Inkster, but the neighborhood communities. I mean, the work we do here is beyond. It's led by Pastor Gene Overman. I've known Pastor Gene Overman for over 10 years. Everybody claims that that's her son, this is that. I mean, we go way back. She's mentored me. She's helped me throughout my career. I love you, Pastor. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on today?
Well, we're so excited, and thank you, Safe, for bringing a team in to really help us get the word out. Today we're doing our food that we do consistently every Wednesday and Thursday throughout the month, and just very excited to share with everyone listening that Operation Refuge has Mother's Pantry. It is a client choice food pantry that we are very thankful that you come in here and it's a place of dignity. You shop just like you're at Trader Joe's, hopefully, or one of the better grocery stores. So we're on the main strip because we want our families to leave those houses if you have a need and come over. And that's whether you're here, Dearborn Heights, Garden City, all of our surrounding communities in Southeast Michigan, Wayne County, actually. We really serve great food, and we have lots of programs. But today we're here talking about Mother's Pantry, and you get the chance to see some of the interactivity at Mother's Pantry with our families. And sometimes there's a great need, and sometimes you find yourself the working, underemployed. So we have lots of Alice families where you're right at that threshold where you cannot receive benefits, but you still need that support. So we're very thankful that through many partnerships with Operation Refuge, we are able to provide good, nutritious food.
What I love about our pantry is the fact that you can come in, park your car, and shop like you're walking into a grocery store.
Yes.
Nobody can tell you you can't take this or you can't take that, and that's a sense of pride where you're not hurting anybody's feelings, and then I can walk in, get what I want, and leave. I mean, that's an amazing.
And you leave with your dignity, and oftentimes when we have food insecurity, you feel some sort of way to start with, right?
Absolutely.
So when you come in, we want to have the best choices.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we really do have excellent choices. We have halal, we have kosher, and we have partners that ensure that we keep what all of our families need.
Yeah.
So we're just very thankful.
It's your leadership and your vision. That's why, right?
And the board of directors, right?
Absolutely.
I can't get it done without you all. And as you see from the young man, you leave with fresh pineapple.
I love it.
Food,
I love it.
Right? And whether you're walking or you're able to drive up, our door is open for you.
And then the line, I can see the line.
Yeah,
I mean, when I
actually
pulled up, was all the it was all the way down to the STEM building. So it's amazing. It's a sunny day. Come to Inkster, folks. Thank you, Pastor. I love you.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
We are now streaming on Alexa. That's right, we're streaming our TV audio worldwide on Alexa. To get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
Now, Alexa will allow you to listen to your favorite TV programs. Remember, to get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
We're streaming our TV audio worldwide.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
having on Truth to Power today. And I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are joined by the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr., as well as the Watchdog. I want to keep saying that, you know, because he's somebody that, you know, when people look at him, they know they got to make sure that they got their I's dotted and their T's crossed. But this is none other than Robert Davis. But Robert, you know, there's so many different things that you have done in terms of, say, in the past, as well as in the current now. What are you doing right now? What's your present occupation that you're doing now?
Well, by the grace of God, I've been blessed with a consulting firm in which I do a lot of legal research and writing for a number of attorneys throughout the state of Michigan and nationally. And I just like to thank some local attorneys who really have helped me expand that service. And I mean, God has truly blessed me, where I can, from the legal consulting to the governmental consulting, in which candidates and others seek my advice or assistance in certain areas such as election law issues. So
let me ask you this question. I'm glad you just brought that point
Sure.
up. So now, in this particular instance, with what's going on with the mayoral race,
Mm-hmm.
can you say to our viewing audience, is this something that you're doing on your own, or is this something that somebody has asked you to do?
I am a faithful, dedicated, and loyal citizen of this great city that we call Highland Park.
Mm-hmm.
I am not working on behalf of any candidate on this particular issue, as I was not working on behalf of any candidate when I did it 4 years ago. A lot of these legal issues are really near and dear to me because I really believe in the rule of law, and I truly believe that it's important that candidates be authentic and transparent with the electorate and voters. And so as a duly registered voter of this great city, I feel it's important that the candidates are truly authentic and truthful to the voters. So this is a lawsuit brought by me in my individual capacity as a sole resident and registered voter of Highland Park, and not on behalf of any candidate.
It could be narrow in the field,
but it could be narrow in the field, and I'm very transparent. I am not a supporter of any of the candidates, obviously, that I'm challenging, and certainly, someone asked me, "Do you have any regrets in getting everybody eliminated 4 years ago, and we ended up with the person that we have there?" And I said, "Well, it was just God's will, Mr. McAllister, that she was there." And at the time, I was the chief of staff to County Commissioner Martha G. Scott, who was supporting Ms. McDonald. Ms. McDonald and I have history when I was an elected member of the Highland Park Board of Education. And I'm just going to be transparent. I don't believe she's qualified to be mayor, let alone a city council person, let alone in any elected position in this city. And whether she's disqualified or not, I think I'm going to be very vocal in my opposition to her being reelected, because I think the city is in a very pivotal stage of needing quality, sound leadership of people who are not looking for a job or looking for attention, but is truly committed to serving and has a record of service. This city needs intellectual leadership, and right now that is clearly absent at the Highland Park City Hall.
Well, one thing we definitely want to do, just to reiterate Roy's point, is that we want to make certain that we do allow,
absolutely,
Mayor McDonald, J. Douglas Holly, or to candidate Ellen Robinson, to get a chance to come on and speak their truth to power at the same time. But is there anything else, because I know that you've got to run in a few, but is there anything else that you'd like to say, pertaining to either this case or with any other case that you may be challenging?
Well, it's a couple of cases that are involving me now that are up at the Court of Appeals dealing with this election, and I think that the citizens of not only the city of Highland Park, Mr. McAllister, Mr. Griffin, but also the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan, that we're going to be faced with a number of questionable candidates who it's just disheartening when you have individuals getting in races for the wrong reasons.
What do you say is the wrong reason?
Well, some people are getting races not because they're truly committed to serving, but because of some other outside
Agenda.
sources.
Or
agenda.
The agenda.
And it's upsetting, especially in this day and age now. Well, the times we're facing, we need some committed leadership at every single level, be it at the school board level, city council, mayor, state rep, judges, statewide.
Mm-hmm.
We need quality leadership, not those who are just seeking to run for office because they want to get on social media and say I'm important. And we have too much of that. And unfortunately, you have other candidates who are not authentic and are not transparent about who they truly are. We all have made mistakes, me being one, and I'm not one to judge anyone for making a mistake. But at the same time, when you try to present yourself to the voters as one thing and your history and record reflects another, that's problematic for me. And so there are going to be a number of cases, not just here in the city of Highland Park, but impacting judicial races, impacting some of the state rep races, impacting some of the statewide races. Jocelyn Benson may have an issue. Garland Gilchrist,
the current candidate for governor,
may have an issue. So there may be some earth-shattering things.
Are these situations that you're going to be tackling, or is it somebody else that may be tackling it and you're just observing?
These are issues that I will be tackling personally.
Okay.
And my history and issues with Jocelyn Benson and her role as Secretary of State is well documented. That's another person who I believe is not qualified to be governor, let alone Secretary of State. She has a hidden political agenda that is truly not in the best interest of Detroiters, and especially black Detroiters or black people, period, in the state of Michigan. I mean, it's amazing. I was just sitting back. Many people have short memories, Mr. McAllister.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were on the city council when this happened. When the city council offices and the mayor's office were raided, not by the FBI, but by the Michigan Attorney General's office some years ago, based upon contracts that were given to former Mayor Duggan's mistress, now wife. Guess who was the unindicted co-conspirator that made a lot of that happen in terms of steering taxpayer dollars to Mayor Duggan's mistress?
Well, you know,
and I mean, this is documented.
It's not the question to document.
It was Jocelyn Benson's husband that worked for the mayor. But I'm just saying is that when you have people now want people to forget, and you may not know that was Benson's husband involved in those transactions because she doesn't take his last name.
Well, we got to put a pin in this
Sure.
because I know you've got to grip, you've got to run,
and we're gonna bring him back.
Tim is saying that we got to take a pause so that we can get you off on time and take care of what you need to do.
Indeed,
we definitely need you to come back on the show again. So if you would like to come back, please, we would love to have you to come back on again.
Oh man, you got me going on that issue. So I will enjoy to come back and to speak upon those other issues when they arise, but certainly I would love to have some dialogue with respect to some statewide candidates that may have some issues in the coming months.
Appreciate you. You have been watching a very special edition of Truth to Power. We have had a very good dialogue, Roy, with this young man, Robert Davis.
Yes, sir.
So again, Robert Davis, we would love to have you come back on again, and we can we put a pin in it, but we love to retouch those situations with those other candidates again.
Absolutely, and I hope when you have those other candidates on, like Ms. McDonald, Ms. Robinson, Mr. Douglas, that you address some of those issues that are the subject matter of the litigation and some of the subject matters in which I briefly discussed here this afternoon, so that they can be transparent and authentic to the voters of the city of Highland Park.
All right, we will take a break and we will be right back, so stay tuned.
We are now streaming on Alexa. That's right, we're streaming our TV audio worldwide on Alexa. To get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
Now, Alexa will allow you to listen to your favorite TV programs. Remember, to get us, just say,
Alexa, enable Watkins Broadcasting.
Okay, here's Watkins Broadcasting. Starting the Watkins Broadcasting live stream.
We're streaming our TV audio worldwide.
My name is Darwin Griffin, and I am the host of Truth to Power, which is a thoughtful weekly TV show that airs on WHPR TV 15.2 every Friday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, bringing influential voices and leaders to the forefront to discuss issues that impact our cities, our states, and the world. This show aims to educate, inspire, and engage our audience with people in today's news.
All media platforms are engaged. Copy. Get ready to launch your show or product. Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that. Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV.
Watkins Broadcasting is going worldwide. Now you can watch Detroit's own WHPR on your TV from anywhere in the world. No matter where you are, you can stay in the know with WHPR TV and Roku. You can get your easy-to-install Roku box from wherever you shop for your entertainment gear. Once your Roku box is connected to your TV and internet, go to the channel store on the home menu of the Roku box. Enter WHPR TV in the search engine and add it to your channels. That's it. That's all you need to get the best in entertainment, news, and talk, no matter where you are. Roku brings all of your favorites to your TV. Netflix, Hulu Plus, Crackle, HBO Go, and now WHPR TV, Detroit Live.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
And welcome back. You are watching a very special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are joined by Summer Moore Crawford, as well as we've gotten these last 20 minutes. We are continued to be joined by the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr. So we just had a real interesting conversation with Robert Davis, and there's, we definitely have to have a part 2 to that conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But, the thing is just that it really just gives candidates an opportunity to realize they must have all of their I's dotted and their T's crossed.
Yes, sir.
And in most cases, Summer, Roy, as you know, Roy, you're currently, a elected official.
Not currently.
Well, you just like
well,
Robert
no,
said.
I am currently.
Just like Robert said, you will always have.
Because I'm a precinct delegate.
There you
so
go.
I am. So I am.
And then just like he said, you're always looked upon as being Councilman Roy McAllister Jr.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There's so many people that think about that and they look at that, and then Summer, that you're looking at trying to be an elected official when it comes down to a bid to run for the State House in District 5. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so the thing is just that, as Robert was saying during the break, just to make sure that everything is all correct so that, there's no questions. So, But let's talk a little bit about, just in these last few minutes that we have today.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
You know, I'm hearing a lot about this ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting.
Right.
Ranked choice.
Yeah, what ranked choice voting is that they want to make certain, because see, a lot of candidates, when they run for office, and if the vote was so close in separation between like the first and second, the two top candidates, but you can only just pick one, like in a primary, where
Right.
you may have the top vote getter goes on to the general election.
Right.
With ranked choice voting is that if the margin was so close to the point where, like, let's say, for example, if it was, say, a 49.1 and the other candidate got, let's say, 50.9 or something that's real close to that 100%. If that margin is so close, then they would want to have a runoff between those two.
Okay.
So that's what they talk about when they're talking about the ranked choice voting, because it depends on the rank that voter has in the upper echelon of who got the first place, the second place, and that first and second place finish are so close, almost like that photo finish. But it gives them a chance to kind of do a runoff.
Okay.
Again, to make that margin a lot more separate.
Okay.
And then especially if those are the only two candidates, then you're not taking votes away from those two candidates with the other candidates that were running in that race.
Right. In fact, it's even more votes because
Exactly.
you've eliminated the other candidates, and now it comes down to these two. So now the voters say either candidate one or candidate close to.
Correct.
Yes. Right.
Now, so this is where people are asking, does that give more power to the people? And where does the Electoral College stand in that?
Well, see, it gives more power to the people because the people make that determination. Not just in terms of saying, when you're talking about the Electoral College, that's just the number of delegates that somebody has. And see, that's another thing that they're in the process of looking at right now. They're looking at doing a nominating convention so that there's the separation, as you both know, where at the convention we had on April the 19th, you had the determination of Secretary of State,
right,
Attorney General, and then those three seats, as far as say they were looking at for those seats for trustee, Board of Governors, Board of Regents, and then also for State School Board. But now the thing is, they want to have also the gubernatorial race also, so that instead of them being primaried in April, they'd rather them be primaried in August, like everybody else is.
Right, right.
And see, they're feeling, and then just like you probably seen in the news recently, that the current president of Michigan State University has stepped down.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now he's in the process of he took an offer, I believe, from Clemson.
Well, yeah.
So people are saying that all during the time, there's three that are affected by that, with the trustee, governor, and regent. But they're wanting to go back to the old way. And this is something I'm hearing that Blanchard and Engler are supporting this concept. They would like to go back to the old way where the governor appoints those individuals as opposed to being voted on by the delegates. Because that's where another question was with the convention, that are the precinct delegates voting, or is it everybody that's voting? And that's where some people were kind of questioning, even at the convention. Some people voted, but they were not registered
to
vote. Is this so interesting? As we have ranked choice voting, questions about the voting process during the convention, how it's affecting everyone across the state. So, are we for or against ranked choice voting, or do we leave it to the power of the people?
Well, one of the things that, and you bring it out excellently, candidate Moore Crawford. But anyway, you know, the Constitution is always about power to the people.
Yes.
And I think, especially when we look at the federal level, we've gotten so far away from that. We've taken everything away from the people, and it is the people that are the ones that says this person will represent us, this person will not. And so these are the issues that, you know, when you ask that question, it is always about, and this has always been me, it is always about the people.
Well, see, and just like you said, Roy, because when we look back to the election with Trump and Hillary Clinton,
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton won the popular votes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she didn't have the delegates.
Delegates, yes.
In the electoral college, as you asked earlier, Summer. So
Right.
that's where a lot of people did not understand, and they questioned, you know, because every state has a certain number of delegates.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that they're concerned about, you know, that here you got all those people that went out there and voted, and they're feeling like their vote didn't matter.
Oh yes, and it's so concerning because I think about the youth, I think about the millennials, and that was one instance right there in that election where it's like the popular vote, the people had their voices heard, and to feel like it was snatched away.
You know,
They felt defeated.
She just keeps hitting these points about the problem. And when you talk about the youth and millennials, I mean, I know we're into this, but I got to talk about. I would like for us to talk about these takeovers also.
Let's go.
You know, because these takeovers is just getting. I mean, it's just detrimental for the city of Detroit, our youth, you know, our city. I mean, this negative is just. I want to talk about that.
I read so the Hungry Man, I was reading on social media, and this is not by verbatim, but reading some of the information that he shared, that we're in a different time and age.
Yes.
To where, like in the 90s, in the 80s, we had malls, you know, we had recreation centers.
Yes.
Recreation centers. We had churches where there were a lot of activities at the churches. I remember there were picnics, and there were just, you know, there were block clubs. I grew through the neighborhood that I'm representing today, and my husband and I said there are 6 new homes up for sale. And we're like, wow. And if an investor gets those homes, then it's going to be renters possibly. But then I think going back to the teen takeovers and the power of the community, the power of the people, we have lost our way so much that our youth are crying out. Like even the movie theaters, they go to the movie theaters are no longer close by. You have to drive 20-30 minutes away. So in the city of Detroit, we don't have a lot of those resources that we once had. I remember back on what was Northwest Movie Theater, the Mercury, you know, Northland Skating Rink. I know Skateland is still around. There was another one, Detroit Roller Wheels.
I'm dating myself, but you know, we used to have mobile swimming pools that went around, you know, and things that went around. And so, you know, it came to the youth, you know, and so, you know, you're right. I mean, we are just looking to the point where it's taking away the future, because the youth is our future.
And I want to share with that is that we have allowed the communication of technology to take over.
Yes.
There's no more conversation at the table. There's no board games. I did a small social media post, I think last year, and said, hey, you know, what about these 10 popular board games? And anyone interested in playing them? You know, I always make a joke. If you around me, I'll say those transformers in the back still work. And it's important because you want to bring unity, but right now our youth are crying. You know, it's like they want to go to a concert in the area, but it's like, can I go? You know, would I be scrutinized for going? You know, will there be any type of violence there? So we really need to come together with the community violence intervention groups. I know the mayor's trying to work on different things, but our youth, especially between the 8th grade, I should say, and probably up to the age of 24, we need some serious intervention and not to include good paying jobs. When we did when I was with Detroit, Downriver APRI, we did a mock election, and a lot of the youth were speaking about possibly leaving school so they can go to work and help out their families. But sadly, there are not enough jobs in the city of Detroit for the young people. And so I know for a fact, like right now, my daughter, she's in her early 20s. She has to drive 20 minutes. Yes,
Y'all, does she look like she got
a 27-year-old and a 21-year-old? So I'm doing good out here. But I'll say that my daughter's concerned. She's like, Mom, gas is $6,000. You know, it's a joke. But she has to drive at least 25 minutes to work. And so many other people. I have a goddaughter who's with me as well. She was just offered 2 positions in the city of Novi, outside Detroit again. My son is also Commerce Township, Novi. So we gotta bring. We're having some concerns about employment, team takeovers, opportunities, resources. Where are they? And we can talk about all day long, but until some solutions are put on the table, including voting, because everybody want the youth to come out and vote. And guess what? This is one of those things that could be on the ballot. We need some solutions.
Well, you know, and I'm going to say this before we wrap up. We got a couple minutes left. But again, it's due to a lot of the great people like you, Summer, who came and brought a bouquet of flowers to our general manager here, Ms. Willis, to you, Roy, for some of the things that you do in the community to uplift and to keep lifting up people, even in moments that you have where it could be grief in your family. And Summer, you have an uncle that you recently lost that you're grieving over, but then for you to come and bring Miss Willis a bouquet of flowers because you know that she's still grieving over the loss of her son and then her other son who, you know, is a way that she can't celebrate, you know, like Father's Day coming up or celebrate like Mother's Day that just passed. But before we wrap, Summer, you're going to be getting some recognition tonight. So tell our viewing audience about some recognition that you're going to be getting tonight.
Tonight on Kirby Street, what's the name? I forgot the name.
The International Institute.
International Institute. Thank you so much for the recognition and for the nominating committee for the work in the community that I've been doing, not only with women, with youth. I'm very much surprised.
But it's well due, and it's probably overdue.
It's overdue.
So we want to get a little bit of moisture coming from your eyes, you know, for that.
Yes,
so as you celebrate, we got to wrap up. Tim is telling us it's time to move on, but we want you to have a very safe and have a memorable weekend. And thank you to Roy McAllister Jr., the Honorable Roy McAllister Jr. Thank you to Summer Moore Crawford.
And thank you, Darwin.
Thank you, Darwin.
Oh,
you giving these accolades, we got to thank you.
Appreciate
Always.
you as well.
Yes,
so let's have a great weekend and listen to these young people that need to hear you say, hey, I'm listening to everything that you're saying. And I want to take
back together.
Exactly. So make people sit down at the dinner table. Make them sit down at the lunch table. Instead of having those phones in front, put the phones down and use both hands to eat with your family. So again, stay safe, be prayerful, and let somebody know that you love them. Have a great rest of this weekend.
God bless you.